Hello and welcome to the latter half of 2020. We've made it. We've all made it this far. Might as well keep going. We're still in the midst of a global pandemic, and at least here in Ireland, we have been put down into lockdown again. And as such, I've decided to challenge myself and keep my mind busy and active with a series of projects, which I'll be doing on the channel hopefully week by week. So this is the first one, the first project. So what I'm going to do is I have some leftover fabric from a Starfleet uniform that I messed up. So I've decided I'm going to make a matching face mask for my 2399 Picard era uniform. Let's get started.
So what you need to make your own face mask is a pattern to begin with. This pattern here I got from Craft Passion. I'll provide the links in the description below. It comes in two parts, the lining part and the main fabric. I cut out an extra one, missing the seam allowance along here, which I'm going to use to try and line up the deltas on the Starfleet fabric that I'm using for the show side of the mask. Another thing I have is surgical barrier fabric. This is in most surgical masks. It just helps stop the droplets from your breath and if you cough or sneeze, and that'll be in conjunction with the cotton fabric. I'm taking apart a surgical mask for the wire to help it form to your nose, and you can use anything. You can use a paper clip or sandwich bag tie. Now you can see I'm pinning the fabric together. I've folded it in half and I've marked out the fabric. And now this is my t-shirt fabric. It's 100% cotton. It's a really cheap way of getting 100% cotton fabric is just getting either an old t-shirt or buying a cheap t-shirt, but get it in like XXXL, so you'll have plenty of fabric to work with. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to pin the pattern directly to the fabric, because I don't have any tailor's chalk right now, so that I can just cut out around it, and that will have the pattern ready to go. So what we're going to do now is we're going to stitch the outside of the fabric with a 1/4 inch seam allowance and just stitch right down the end to the other end. So first I stitch the barrier fabric, which if you use barrier fabric, be careful, it can get caught up in the presser tracks or whatever they're called, but they can get caught up in that pretty easily, so go nice and easily with it. The cotton stitch is fine. It's a little bit stretchier than the barrier fabric, so be wary of that. Right, with the two of them stitched together like so, what we'll be doing is we'll be stitching them one to the other. So I'm just pinning the outer sides of the fabric, and be mindful of which way the seams are pointing. You want the seam pointing in at each other. So you stitch down the outer sides, and when you've done that, snip all your threads. Always make sure to snip your threads. And then fold it inside out. So now you have this nice seam. I've seen a lot of people making face masks and they just leave the raw edge, which is fine as well, but I just decided to be neat about it. So I'm just going to snip down the mask and remove the wire. As you can see, it looks like a sandwich bag tie. It is not dissimilar to that, but you can use whatever, paper clip, sandwich bag tie. I don't have either of those, but I have plenty of masks, so whichever works. So I've measured the wire and it comes to 4 inches. And what I did was I folded the ends of it by a 1/4 inch. So now I'm marking out on the mask. The white part is the easiest part to mark, so that I can create a small pouch in which the wire is going to sit into. And now I'm going to stitch the barrier fabric to the cotton. Be very careful when you pin this that you're straightening it out. As I said, the cotton is going to be stretchier than your barrier fabric, so make sure you pin it. So really take the time to make sure that your edges are the same, and so when you run your stitch, you won't have overlap. Now, for the main fabric. So as I said, I've taken the piece without the seam allowance, which is 1/4 inch, just so that I can try and match up the deltas. Spoiler alert, I don't do it very well, but I'm sure that if you have similar fabric, you might have better luck than I did. Turn your pattern over and mark out the other side. And because those marks are outside the seam allowance, you won't see them. So don't be afraid to make blatant marks. You won't see them once they're all stitched up. Now we stitch those sides together. You want to put the show side on the inside and stitch down that outer seam like you did with the lining and the barrier fabric. So run your stitch down, 1/4 inch seam allowance to the outside, and make sure to snip your threads. Fold it to the show side out just to check your deltas. And now you're going to stitch the lining to the outer fabric. What I'm doing here is I'm using the extra fabric or extra pattern to show where the flap is going to be, so I can accurately pin the lining to where it's going to be stitched to. And that way I can get a more accurate pinning from end to end. And then in the middle and split the difference with the pins, and that way I won't have any bunching in theory. Really take your time with this and allow yourself the time to just get it right the first time, and you won't have issues when you're stitching. I was having some trouble getting the wire to cooperate because now because you're running a stitch on the top here, you'll be stitching the wire into place. Be careful not to go past where the flap is going to be, and you're going to want to run that stitch at the top and the bottom edges. And now that that's done, what you're going to do is you're going to fold it inside out by pushing it through the ends. And now you can see that the show side of the delta fabric is there, and the black lining is on the inside, as it should be. So now we're going to fold in the flaps that are going to hold the elastic in place. We're just going to run a stitch down the inside at 1/4 inch again. Most of the seams are 1/4 inch or 3/8 if you want to leave some extra room for thicker elastic. always make sure to snip your threads. Now what we're going to do is we're going to do a neatening stitch along the outside, just to make it look a little bit nicer. What we're going to do is we're going to put it into the presser foot at 1/4 inch and then set the needle to the outside, which means it's only going to be an 1/8 inch stitch, which makes it look really just nice and neat. Make sure not to sew the loops closed. That would be bad, you won't get your elastic in otherwise. And just stop just short of the end. There are probably better ways of doing this, but I'm very much an amateur sewer, so if you can think of any, just leave a message down in the comments. Now for the elastic, what I did is I just ran it through the end of a safety pin and pushed it through the loops. You can either just tie 2 loops where they can go around your ears, or in my case I did it so you could put it behind your head, which for me is more comfortable. Now I thought the mask looked fine by itself, but naturally I wanted to take it one step further by 3D modeling some deltas based on my Picard era Starfleet badge, which is available in my shop. I'll leave the link down in the description below. And I printed it on my Anycubic Photon and gave them a nice chrome and metallic black paint job. Now you may have noticed that I have made 2, and that is because I have extra fabric and plan on making a second one to give away. Now to find out how to win a mask of your own, stick around to the end of the video and I'll tell you how. Anyway, to place it on the mask, make sure it lines up with the outer line of the loop. Just a little bit of Loctite super glue. Not too much, you don't want it spilling everywhere. And be careful with your fingers, you only get one shot at doing this. So make sure you get your position right the first time.
And here it is! I mean, yeah, it's pretty good. I'm actually quite happy with that. I think it fits rather nice when I try it on, and you can't see the wire, which is great. So yes, onto the giveaway. So I'm going to make an identical mask to this one, but identical in scope. I'm making it slightly bigger because my face is tiny. Include lots of elastic so that you can fit it to your own face, and I will send it out to you free of charge if you do these things. You subscribe to the channel, you hit the like button, and hit the bell notification button, all that good stuff. But I want you to comment down below with your favorite Starfleet captain and why. And I will announce the winner in the video next week, if that sounds good. And that's it for this video. But before I go, there's just something I need to try. Come with me.
Alright, I think we've all had enough of 2020. Computer, end program. Computer, end program. No? Well, I tried. Chief O'Brien wanted to beam up.
Fuck off, would you?
Oh, okay. And don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and don't forget to enter as well. Energize.